J, G, no, G and J. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video, and I hope you are all okay on that side of the screen. I'm not English, as you guys know, and these two right over here have different name. One is called J50 and the other one G41. And if I'm mixing the J and G, I'm really sorry about that. Now these are really two interesting machines. These are the latest from Minix in terms of mini computers with Windows 10 Pro. These are two different machines in several aspects. I will try to cover them all. We have seen before the J50 and it has been refreshed right now, and the G41 is a completely new machine from Minix. Now let's start to take a look at the physical aspect. First of all, in terms of enclosure, the J50, which is this one right over here, we have some fingerprints as usual, but the material is the usual, very good build quality, nice and solid plastics. And the G41 is this one right over here, and I will explain in just a few moments why we have these holes right over here. Now if we take a look at the back of these two devices, and starting with the G50 right on the top, or the J50 to be more precise, we have a power input, and then we have the RG45 Ethernet gigabit connection, mini DisplayPort, HDMI and USB Type-C. Have in mind that these three connections we will be able not only to have a triple display setup as we have tested in the past, and also right now it works great, and it's fantastic how a small machine like this, it's capable of powering three displays 4K at 60 Hz. And besides that, the USB Type-C also transmits data and so on and so forth. Now if we take a look right over here, we also have a audio output 3.5mm jack with optical outs. When we look at the G41, we have a gigabit Ethernet port right over here, HDMI and DisplayPort. Both of these we can get 4K up to 60 Hz, and then we also have a VGA output, but only 1080 at 60 Hz maximum resolution, and also a power input jack. So we can also do a triple display setup, but we are limited to two displays up to 4K at 60 Hz and 1080 60 Hz on the G41. Now if we turn around right on this side, the G50 we have, or the J50, we have a power button, 3 USB 3.0 ports. On the G41 we will have only the Kensington lock, but once we turn on the other way, they change. So we will have a Kensington lock on the G50, and then on the G41 we will have power button, 2 USB 3.0 to USB 2.0 optical out with a 3.5mm jack, and also a micro SD card slot, which I love to see on these units. And I know that we can connect via USB, but to have a micro SD card is just very elegant when we need extra storage. And then finally, right over here on the front, we will have LED indicators, and then at the bottom they are quite similar, not exactly the same, but quite similar. Quality construction, good, nice plastics, so no complaints right over here. In terms of specifications, the J50 is using the Intel quad-core G5005 Intel CPU, and the G41 is using the Intel quad-core Celeron N4100. In terms of RAM, both of them come with 4GB of RAM, being the G50 able to upgrade up to 16GB of RAM if we need to. The G41, it's not capable of being upgraded, so this is something to have in mind. In terms of storage, both of them come with 64GB of flash storage, and both of them can be upgraded internally with an M.2 SSD. And by the way, I've got the two right over here from Minix, regular SSDs, M.2 SATA connection, sorry about that. But one of the advantages of getting these right over here, not that you cannot use others, you can, but one of the advantages that if you don't want to bother yourself installing Windows and so on and so forth, these, as you can see, come with Windows 10 Pro pre-installed. So it's just a matter of putting the disk, and that is it. We can start using the computer without installing anything else. And of course we can still use the internal storage, the 64 gigs that come with pre-built in. Now having that said, once we open the G50, or to open the J50, sorry, we will need to remove these feet right over here, and then unscrew and mount, while the G41, it's very elegant right over here because it has this small opening right over here, and we just need to remove the screws, and then we can just place in the SSD, and that's about it. It's easy to upgrade on both models, but Honestly, I prefer the G41 with this small opening, but of course I prefer the option to have extra RAM on the J50, so it's a tough choice. Now, in terms of performance, they are also different, and I will try to explain as best as I can. But starting with the basics, if you want a machine for office tasks, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on and so forth, or even other type of work but related to this that don't push much from the CPU and RAM and so on and so forth, then any of these machines will be a great purchase. Actually, I would go and say, without knowing the prices yet, and when I have links available, I will leave them down below so that you guys can check it out. But I do believe that the G41 will be a bit cheaper than the J50, so probably this will be the best choice if you're looking for a machine that you want to put on the back of a display, like I've got right over there is one of these machines that it's running a few services that I've got right over there. So this is the ideal scenario. Any of these will do a great job and you will not notice any difference in terms of performance. By the way, I didn't show you benchmarks, but I will do right now. In terms of Geekbench 5, as you guys can see, there is a difference on the G50, both on single core score and multi-core score, being the G50 a little bit more powerful. And of course on OpenCL we can see a difference as well. Have in mind that we were used up to a few weeks ago to Geekbench 4, which gave us much higher results, and at this moment we are running Geekbench 5, so have that in mind when comparing with other machines that we've tested in the past. So just have that in mind. In terms of connectivity, these machines work really nicely. In terms of Wi-Fi, I was able to get roughly 180 megabits per second on download and 150 on upload, and on the Ethernet connection I was able to get the maximum of my gigabit connection, which was roughly 940 megabits per second download and 200 on upload. So as I was saying, in terms of office, we will be fine with any of these. If we move to more advanced tasks like a Plex server or a multimedia machine, then I would tend to go with the J50 because I can upgrade RAM, and if I want to run a server, then I will use more RAM. If you want to use a machine for virtual machines, then the choice would be the J50. And one other example that I would like to share with you guys, it's about gaming. And for those of you like myself that don't have time to play games, or sometimes don't have even the patience to play games, in my particular case, when I use games, it's just so that we can set a difference between them and we can then evaluate the game with another kinds of operation that we will do. It can be Photoshop, it can be any other tool that will push the GPU and CPU. Now, starting with the basic in terms of games, if you want to use those mobile games or from the mobile platforms like Asphalt Extreme, Asphalt 8, Asphalt 9 Legends, then any of these machines will be more than capable. Actually, we don't need that much. Also, if you want to play Minecraft and Roblox and games similar to that, these are desktop gaming, but once again, these computers are more than capable and you will have a great experience playing them. But I wanted to test one game that it's well known, which is Rocket League, because you will be able to compare those results with so many other machines online that will be easy for you to take a look and see the kind of performance that it's right over here. Now, if you take a look at the screen, in terms of tests, I did two, one of which was to leave all the effects on but removing the high detail graphics to the minimum, and what you can see right over there is an experience that is not very acceptable. I was getting roughly 12 frames per second on the J50 and I was getting roughly 8 or 9 or sometimes less 7 frames per second on the G41. So as you can see, the experience was not so good, but then I did remove everything, effects and blur and so on and so forth, and I was able to get on the J50 roughly 20 frames per second, and on the same conditions on the G41 I was getting 13 frames per second. So this means that, are they good enough to play? Well, the J50, I have to be honest, that although I'm used to look at things with great graphics, I was able to play. In terms of the experience, 20 frames per second, it's not the ideal. I would say at least 60, but 20 frames, it's playable. Now the 13 on the other hand, not very playable, so you can see the differences right over here, and this just translates to, if you want from these two a machine that it's more capable, as I said, for a server, for a multimedia machine that you want to use besides streaming, because for streaming both of them will work great, Netflix, Kodi and so on and so forth, but besides that, if you want to push a little bit more virtual machines and so on, then the J50 will be the way to go. On the other hand, if you want to use a machine for office and multimedia consumption but no servers and no other virtual machines and so on and so forth, then probably the G41 will be the best option, because probably it's cheaper as well. But this is just me speculating at this moment. But technically the G50, as you guys can see, or the J50 as you guys can see, is a little bit pushier than the G41. Two really interesting machines. I'm also very eager to see the new machines that Minix will release by the end of this, well, the end of this month probably, Android machines, which are almost dedicated for the multimedia experience. But that's not on this particular video. Guys, hopefully this video was helpful in some way, and if it was, don't forget the usual thumbs up. My name is Roberto Jorge, and as always, I'll see you guys on the next one.